y'all. I'm Laura Richardson with Relevate, and we're bringing you another episode of I'm Moving to North Carolina, Now What? So today's episode, 5 things that typically surprise sellers when they go to list their home. One of the biggest ones is it is 1 to buy, but 2 to sell here in North Carolina. So let's say that John bought a house back when he was single and he's now married when he goes to list his property. Well, even though on the deed that you can see online, Susie has not been added, Susie still actually has to sign all of the documents. That's everything from your listing agreement to the actual contract from your buyer, as well as the deed transfer. So always make sure that even though somebody says, oh, I was single when I bought this, it doesn't matter. Once you become married, it is now an entirety situation with rights of survivorship. That's just kind of how we write things here. So it's really important that you go ahead and include them in all the decision making and the documentation. Something else that's really big is not everybody loves your pets. So number 2, everyone loves their pets, but not necessarily yours. So when you're going to list a home, one of the hardest things for sellers to hear is that Fido and all of his stuff has to go. One of the things that people worry about when they're moving into a new home is the potential damage, especially the stuff that you can't see, that pets typically cause. So things like, for example, chewing up certain parts of the woodwork. Typically there's like a chew toy zone in almost every house where they just went to town on the woodwork. Or there could be a spot where maybe Fido, because he's like 15 years old, has continuously peed on the hardwoods. That may have sunk down to the subflooring, and now people are concerned about whether or not that's going to be permanently trapped in the home. And then another big one, and this is in particular for our allergy folks, is that pet dander can also be very difficult to get rid of. A lot of times you have to worry about cleaning out the ductwork, not just the vent areas, but also the ductwork itself, because it could be trapped there in addition to being kind of ground into the carpet and other materials in the home. So just remember, it's always good when you're listing your house, get rid of all the evidence of any of your pets. Litter boxes are another big one. Nobody wants to look at that. So go ahead and get rid of that before you take photos. Don't have it out during showings. And if you can, go ahead and put your puppy and your kitty over in kind of the hotel down the street and make sure that they're not present for showings, because as friendly as your pets may be, not everybody loves animals, and you want to broaden your buyer pool as much as possible. Number 3, and I hear this all the time, the buyer is going to come in and they want to pick their own materials, specifically paint. So guys, buyers are going to look at your house with a high level of scrutiny in today's market. So if you give them opportunities for projects, they're going to see that as something they want to decline. So they're going to eat it up in either the price they offer in your home, or they'll just not look at your home at all. Remember, buyers are having to bring a lot of money to the table. They do not want to have to waste future negotiation opportunity to either get some concessions or projects that really matter to them, not being able to have access to those because now they're having to get that money in concessions for paint, or kind of scale back and save money to then have to repaint the house that you should have already neutralized. So keep in mind, there is a big difference between neutral paint colors like the grayish theme that unfortunately is not dying anytime soon. That is still kind of the standard neutral. If you have mismatched paint colors throughout the house, buyers are definitely going to take note. They will not see that as an opportunity. And the other big thing that's tied to this is deferred maintenance. If you have just general deferred maintenance that has not been done, especially if it's something that's visible, a buyer is going to take one look at that and say, okay, if they didn't do these things that I can see, what have they not done that I can't see? So you're going to see them, again, come in with a high level of scrutiny and just start picking apart the property. When buyers walk in and they've got that kind of open feeling, that neutralized zone where they're like, oh, they really prepped it. They did all the things I would expect them to do. It's only going to increase from there. They're going to fall in love with it, and then it's kind of hard to scale back. But when they walk in and they get immediately hit with projects or smells or the deferred maintenance like I was mentioning, it's going to go down from there. They're going to kind of put on their magnifying lenses and start looking at everything for all the stuff that maybe you weren't even thinking that they thought of that you wouldn't do. So prep your home. Don't leave the work to the buyer. This is also another, I think, hard pill to swallow for sellers. So number 4, just because it wasn't a big deal to you does not mean that your buyers are going to look past it. So let's say, for example, having loud road noise or a steep driveway or even like power lines or a transformer in your backyard. Anything that could be kind of what we see as a market averse factor. Those things may not mean a whole lot to you because you were able to look past them, whether it was because of the market you were in, you had to, or let's just say that your lifestyle and personality doesn't matter that those things are present. Buyers, especially in today's market, may not have as much of an open mind. For example, let's say that there's a family with kids that's looking at your property and you have a steep driveway that opens up to a busy road. One of the things that might pop into their head is little Timmy is playing with his basketball out front. It rolls down the driveway and into the busy street. So now we've got a safety issue. So just kind of thinking through things that buyers could take as a negative towards your property and making sure that your pricing, your prep, and all of that matches. Also, be really careful that your photos are not misleading of the things that are present. You want to be as upfront and honest with buyers as possible. Now, it doesn't mean you have to, put it in MLS with a flashing red sign, but you also want to make sure that buyers are not caught off guard by some of the quirks that may exist within your property. And then number 5 is not all homes are going to go into multiple offers. I think that there's quite a few of us that are still in that mindset that we're in a COVID market. We're not. Or they think that we're in a low inventory market. And there's a lot of areas that are over 3 months of inventory. Now, that is not to say that this applies to every location. There are hot zone parts of the triangle that are still seeing multiple offers. They're seeing offers coming in significantly over list. They're still selling within the first weekend. But then we have the other end of the spectrum. So it's not that these are outliers, but you do have homes that take a little bit longer. Maybe the inventory is extremely high in your particular neighborhood. Maybe you're also competing with new construction. And right now, resale homes are actually more expensive than buying a new construction property. If there's nearby new construction, you now have competition that's not even a comp, but it is something that you need to be paying attention to. So do not go into your first weekend on the market and automatically assume that the COVID market era type of stats still apply. You could be looking at high days on market. You could be looking at a slow trickle of showing traffic. You could also be looking at a high level of home prep that's going to be required for buyers to even consider your property. So just know the nuances that pertain to your particular location, your neighborhood, and your home. And do not go ahead and have that high level mindset that's going to set you up for failure by thinking that you are going to automatically have multiple offers. Getting high foot traffic in the beginning is going to be your best bet to be able to get competition and to create a multiple offer situation. It is not a guarantee. It is just something that does happen in certain scenarios. So as always, just make sure that you're talking through all of this with your agent and that you're being as upfront and as possible in regards to your net and the things that are really important to you. If you have a hard line where you cannot accept an offer past a certain point, it is always good for you to let your agent know. They can provide you with a seller net sheet that's really going to help you make wise decisions. One of the other toughest things I think for folks in our seat is to let somebody know that based on what they need to kind of clear, that may not be possible given the amount of time that they've lived in a home. Remember, appreciation is usually about 2 to 6%. Year over year. We were used to the COVID market where things were flying and just kind of jumping up 30% based on when somebody purchased it to when somebody sold it. Now things have settled back into a market that is very similar to 2019. So it's important that before you even go through all of the steps and all of the prep to list your home, that you are very aware of what is even possible in the current market. So as always, honesty is the best policy. If you have any questions about moving to the triangle or things that we're seeing currently in the listing side of our market, feel free to drop those in the comments below. I'm Laura Richardson with Relevate, and we'll see you on our next episode.